So it's a wrap on the season for the Carolina Panthers, and after a thrilling overtime victory over the Atlanta Falcons, today's the exit interviews. The day after the final game, people are cleaning out their lockers, and the Panthers, they made an announcement. Dave Canales said that Ejiro Evero will be returning in 2025 to be the defensive coordinator. This is 24 hours after his defense officially has given up the most points in NFL history with a total of 534. This is the most since 1981, and like I said, the most in league history. So I think this honestly could be a mistake, but we're going to get into all that in this video. But if you're new to the channel, my name is Aaron Duncan. I give you Panthers water cooler talking points 2 to 3 business days in advance. So make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and the bell icon to make sure you're up to date and in the loop about this type of content, because we have a lot of stuff going on, and this may be one of the most important off seasons in Panthers franchise history. And I know that I say that for off season, but this time maybe is the real thing, because the Panthers ended the season on a good note. They put up 44 points. I don't know when the last time the Carolina Panthers put up 44 points. It's a miracle. I remember the times where if a team scored more than 17 points, it was a death sentence for the Carolina Panthers. But here they are winning a shootout in overtime against a division rival on the road, 44-38. But the elephant in the room is the 38 points. Depending on who won that coin toss is pretty much going to determine the outcome of that game. And it just so happened that tails actually does fails, because the Panthers pick heads, and the heads it was, and we ended up scoring on that drive. But it could have been the opposite way had the Panthers defense been on that field, because they did not force a punt. This has been multiple occasions this has happened. This is the 6th 200-yard rushing game they have surrendered in a row. Their 8th on the season. Is giving up over 12 games of giving up 150 yards rushing on the ground. They've only held opponents under 100 yards rushing one time. And these are embarrassing numbers. Now, I know Ejiro Evero has been here for his 2nd year. I know there have been injuries. I know we had practice squad players out there on the field as well. But it just seems like some of the same issues that we had in week 1 are still showing their face now. Miscommunications in the secondary, piss poor tackling, not everybody getting to the ball, one-on-one tackles being missed. You have guys not doing their assignments, guys out of position. These are things that it doesn't take talent, it doesn't take health to actually execute. To get out there, know what you're doing, and do your assignment, and at least be in proper position, that doesn't take talent. That's on coaching. Something is not being communicated. Something isn't clicking. Something isn't registering from what you're saying in the meetings and the practice field over to the game day. It's just something's not clicking. And so that's why I thought that, hey, although there are a bunch of players hurt and there's not a lot of talent, something isn't getting over. Even last year when the Panthers had Frank Wright, we did not have a ton of good wide receivers. Our O-line was beat up. Bryce Young looked like whatever last year. But you can still tell that there were some problems with Frank Wright's scheme, and they got him out of here accordingly, and now you can see the difference. You have to be able to see through a lot of the circumstances as well. Yes, context matters, but you still have to be able to see and tell what's what and what's wrong. I've dropped many of times talking about the defense. If you want to check out my recap from the Cowboys, I broke down exactly why the Panthers' run defense in particular was bad in that film breakdown. You can go check that out. I'll link it up here. But it just lets you know some of the stuff was, yes, personnel related. And yes, Ejiro did try to do some different things to mix it up, but the players weren't executing the scheme, and that ultimately falls on coaching. Now, will they bring back the whole defensive coaching staff? We're going to see. But I think that bringing Evero could be a mistake. Now, who was out there? I know I pushed out the name Robert Saleh. He has ties to Dave Canales. He does not run the 3-4. He runs a 4-3, a more attacking style of defense where they use that front four to get after the passer and play a more aggressive style of coverage versus Ejiro Evero, who plays a more of a softer coverage. He believes that, hey, if you give cushion, you play faster going towards the ball versus you having to backpedal and turn and run and do things. That's their mentality. But time and time again, we did not see adjustments. We constantly saw guys playing 12 yards off on 3rd and 4, giving up those type of chain moving events consistently and hoping to bend but don't break. But there's obviously more breaking than bending on this defense. But I just think that there might have been some other options out there, and they could have explored them, but they decided to continuity would be the best. Dave Canales giving an excuse last week saying that, hey, it's on me. We didn't sustain drives against the Bucs. That's why things were so easy. And once you hear those type of excuses and reasoning, which are valid, but whenever you see him rationalizing things like that and pretty much saying it is what it is, it lets you know that he felt good about Ejiro and wanted to bring him back. Dan Morgan even had a press conference today and talked about why he thought Ejiro deserved another answer. And he pretty much said this.
Yeah, you know, I love EJ. I love his defense. I think it's a really good scheme. But again, like, I have to do my part as well, you know, me and my staff of putting really good players on the field and adding really good pieces to the defense. And, you know, again, the young guys are developing on the defensive side of the ball. There's some young guys that, you know, we're excited about there. You know, and just some cornerstone guys that we have on defense too that we're excited to get back with Derek Brown and JC. But Evero's scheme's really good. We're excited to have him back. And again, we just got to add pieces, keep developing the players that we do have. And, you know, I think, you know, things can turn around. You know, we just have to put the work in. And we're going to do that.
So you heard it, man. Dan Morgan pretty much took all of the blame for the defense being bad. Obviously, he can't control injuries, but he said that he needed to put better players out there. And this was an excuse and a reasoning for a lot of people that were defending Ejiro Evero. And like I said, it is a valid criticism that we did need better players. But I said, you can see that certain things weren't clicking. Even the guys that were healthy, the Xavier Woods, the Jordan Fullers, those guys, even J.C. Horn from week 1, miscommunications, blown coverages. The first drive of the season was a blown coverage between J.C. Horn and Jordan Fuller. Those are guys that are experienced. Those aren't rookies making rookie mistakes. These are guys that you are counting on, guys that you brought in because they're Ejiro Evero guys that are familiar with the system, but they're looking real unfamiliar on the field when they're making mistakes like that. So when you see those type of guys having issues and things aren't going over correctly, that's when I start having a problem with that type of reasoning in terms of blaming the players. But I also hear excuses like, oh, we did all this for Bryce Young. We gutted the defense. That way we could do whatever. We didn't gut the defense. I don't know how many times I have to tell you guys this. Brian Burns was not gutted. We barely got a return for him. Yes, the production wasn't there, but his value was more than a second and a 5th round pick that we got for him. They wanted to bring him back. They were negotiating a contract. It was just dragging out, and they didn't have time to play those type of games. They moved on and got what they could. If they wanted to gut the defense, why wouldn't they have maximized the return on Brian Burns in terms of trade value and then use that for offense? So they didn't gut it there. Frankie Louvu was actually offered money by the Panthers. They made a last-minute push and offered, what I'm hearing, at least equal, if not more money than the Panthers did. Frankie Louvu didn't want to play in the system. That says a lot. So he moved on, went to the Commanders, played under Dan Quinn. Lo and behold, Jeremy Chinn was not good at it. He was not used. He left on his own because we have talent like Jeremy Chinn. He wasn't being used by Ejiro Evero. So he went to a system like Dan Quinn and has been playing better this year in a system that plays to his strengths. That tells you something as well. Dante Jackson, he was going to be a cap casualty regardless. He was making like $13 million. He was obviously getting hurt and had been a little bit overrated as well because of the lack of health and the lack of performance to meet the standards of that contract. And so he was going to be gone anyway. The fact that we were able to get a receiver in return was just gravy on the mashed potatoes there. And YGM was not going to be brought back. He ended up going out to San Francisco, having way more production in the sack game than he ever did on the Carolina Panthers. And last but not least, Von Bell. Von Bell was a cut. We got no cap savings from getting rid of Von Bell. So the whole notion of gutting the defense is just not true. Yes, they spent a lot of money on offense. And let me be real. We had to pay, we'll call it the trash tax. As in, when you're a bad team, to get people to come, you either have to get volunteers or hostages. Volunteers is you pay them on the open market, or you get hostages. Hostages, you trade for them, they have no choice. But also when you get these volunteers, you have to incentivize it. If you're not a good team, you have to pay a premium. And paying Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis what they paid them were a little bit of overpays. Now, their value has been great this year, and they're worth more to us than the other teams. So when you have the type of history that we have, sometimes you have to pay a little bit of a premium for players. It was worth it. It is what it is. It's just business. When they did that, they didn't have the money to be able to pay the trash tax on the defensive side of the ball. Now, it's not like they didn't try to pay anybody at all because, like I said, they made an offer for Frankie Louvu that was competitive, not equal to what he got. He just chose not to come here. Rumors also came out that they were targeting Patrick Queen. Patrick Queen ended up signing with the Steelers. But if anybody has a choice, with all things being equal, they're probably not coming to Carolina at the state that they were last year, coming off of a 2-win season with it looks to be instability in terms of the front office and head coach. So it just wasn't a desirable position to come there. And so it was just hard for Dan Morgan to get players to come in without paying a premium. And they spent that premium trash tax on offense. They didn't pay the trash tax on defense. So that's where it ends up happening. It's not like there was this lack of effort, but for Dan Morgan to take and fall on the sword, it says a lot. One, it says that he feels very comfortable with his position as general manager in the future, but also I think they really are trying to push this continuity. I still think his seat could be hot if we add a lot of assets to the defense and he does what he did for the offense in terms of investing in the trenches and making that happen. And we still don't see the results. It could be some sad singing and flower bringing this time next year in terms of Black Monday if the defense doesn't turn around. Because to me, is there anywhere else but up? Because we have one of the worst, if not the worst defense in NFL history in terms of points and rushing yards. So to me, I think that the microscope is going to be on Ejiro, because even though we did have good players last year, the Panthers were still average at best in most metrics. People keep telling me that 2023 was a good year, but I'm looking at the numbers. We were last in quarterback pressures, last in pressure rate, last in sacks. We were 6th highest in EPA per play surrendered. We were last in EPA per rush surrendered. We gave up the 6th most explosive runs. But gave up the most rushing touchdowns. We had the most missed tackles. We had the 5th worst red zone touchdown percentage. We were last in total takeaways. And so just because we were high in total defense and yards doesn't mean anything when every other metric disagrees with you. And we're bottom of the barrel this year. So if you're not making progress, what are you doing? You're regressing. So this year was definitely a step back. I want to see us make moves. And when Ejiro, a guy that people are saying, hey, you're going to get him talent, but he didn't do anything with Louvu, or he didn't use Louvu correctly, or he didn't lose Jeremy Chin correctly. And he ended up taking DJ Johnson in the draft. And I think that's fair criticism as well, because what is he looking for? He tends to push system over players, but sometimes production matters. I'm not trying to draft no type of projects. Go for the production in the draft that you're going to address this defense. Get the guys that have production, get good players, and alter your scheme. That way we fit the players. Don't try to make the players fit into your scheme or draft players that only do 1 or 2 things right because they fit your scheme. Get good players and make your scheme work. That's what Dave Canales had to do as a play caller to fit Bryce Young. You should be able to do the same thing if you're worth your weight in gold as a defensive coordinator. That's all I'm saying. You guys let me know down below in the comments how you feel about Ejiro Evero returning as the Panthers defensive coordinator. Is it a good move, bad move? Are they making a mistake? What do you know? Let me know down below in the comments. I'm Aaron Duncan signing off with the Necessary Bluntness Sports Talk. I appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you are subscribed. I'll see you next time. Peace.